Hello. I was 270 feet in the air, working on top of a wind turbine, when my phone buzzed with a message that turned my entire life upside down. The image that popped up wasn't just shocking, it revealed something far worse than betrayal. Turns out, my wife wasn't just cheating, she was getting ready to take everything we had. What Alyssa and the guy she was sneaking around with didn't understand is this. When your job has you hanging hundreds of feet above the ground, fear isn't something you avoid. You learn to sharpen it. You turn it into strategy, into focus. By the time I finally stood face to face with them, every move had already been made. I wasn't coming to play, I was there to end the game. Checkmate. Let me back up a bit. My name's Caleb Dalton. I'm 39, and for the past 12 years, I've been working as a wind turbine technician. That means climbing those massive metal giants scattered across the Midwest. It's not your average job. I spend days away from home, working at dizzying heights that would make most folks feel sick. But for me, there's always been something freeing about it. Just me, the breeze, and the endless sky above. And yeah, the paycheck isn't bad either. It's what helped us land our dream home in a quiet suburb just outside of Milwaukee a couple of years ago. It all started unraveling on a maintenance run in Minnesota. Nothing out of the ordinary, just another day on the job, until I got a text from my buddy Travis. It had a photo attached. Hung out downtown last night. Thought you'd want to see this. The picture was taken in one of those upscale cocktail lounges. A group of people were laughing, drinks in hand. And there, tucked in the back of the shot, partially hidden but impossible to miss, was my wife, Alyssa. She was leaning in close to some guy I didn't recognize. The way they were positioned, the way they looked at each other, it wasn't just friendly. Not even close. My hands were trembling as I gripped my phone and called Travis right then and there. How long have you known? I asked, my voice barely steady as I stood perched high above the ground. He hesitated. I've seen them together a couple times now. I didn't know how to bring it up, man. I'm sorry. The next few days were brutal. I had to stay and finish the job. Company policy was strict about leaving for personal issues unless someone was hospitalized. So I swallowed the pain, buried it deep, and threw myself into the work. I double-checked every component like a machine, even as my own life was spiraling. When I finally pulled into our driveway back home, her car was already there. I sat in my truck for 15 solid minutes, trying to pull myself together, figuring out how to even begin. Sure, I could storm in and confront her right then. But all I had was that one photo. It wasn't enough. She could talk her way out of it. No, I needed real proof. I walked through the front door with my usual travel bag slung over my shoulder. Alyssa greeted me with a warm smile and a hug, like everything was normal. She smelled different. A new perfume. Not something I'd bought her. How was the trip? She asked, taking my bag like she always did. Informative, I said, watching her face for any sign of guilt. Learned a few unexpected things. That night, while she slept soundly beside me, I stared up at the ceiling fan in silence. My mind was racing. I made up my mind, come morning, I was going to get to the bottom of this. 12 years of marriage meant I had a right to know the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. And once I had it, I'd figure out what kind of man I wanted to be moving forward. Before sunrise, I slipped out of bed and quietly reached for her phone on the nightstand. We always had each other's passwords. Built on trust, or so I thought. The guilt of checking her phone vanished about 10 seconds after I unlocked it. Right there, in her messaging app, was a thread with someone listed under the name Northwinds. I scrolled through. My stomach clenched with each message. The texts went back months. First flirty, then way too personal. Plans for sneaking off, hotel bookings, even back and forths about how to keep everything under wraps. She'd even sent him a photo of herself wearing the anniversary gift I gave her, something meant to be just between us. I want to look my best for the weekend, she wrote. And he replied, I can't wait to see you. The guy's name was Derek. I figured that out from the way they talked. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to myself before putting her phone right back where it was. Then I headed downstairs to make some coffee, trying to act like my heart hadn't just been crushed. When Alyssa came down about half an hour later, I was already sitting at the kitchen table with 2 mugs ready. She kissed me on the head and grabbed her cup. You're up early, she said casually. Yeah, I nodded, forcing a smile. Got a call from work. They want me in Nebraska tomorrow. Something's acting up with the turbines. That was a lie, but I needed space. Time to think. Her expression changed just for a second, like she was relieved, before she quickly covered it. Again? You just got back, she said, but there wasn't much concern in her voice. That's the job, I replied with a shrug. Good thing we put in those security cameras last month. I'll be able to keep an eye on the house while I'm gone. She froze for half a second, her coffee mug hovering in midair. We didn't have security cameras. I watched her carefully as she tried to figure out if I was bluffing. Of course, she said finally, keeping her voice even. That's smart. After she left, I made a real call to my supervisor, pulled in a favor, and secured an actual assignment up in Nebraska. Then I contacted a private investigator one of my coworkers had recommended. He'd been through something like this himself. The PI, a former cop named Keller, agreed to take the case and run surveillance while I was away. I'll need info on the other guy, he said when we met that afternoon. I gave him the photo Travis had sent and a license plate I'd tracked from Alyssa's shared location. That plate kept popping up near an apartment complex on the other side of town. Derek Whitman, Keller said after checking the plate. Now we're getting somewhere. Turns out the guy's name was Derek Whitman. Worked at City Trust Bank downtown. Married. No kids. Somehow, that made it feel even worse, like it wasn't just a mistake, but a breach of trust on both sides. Two married people, lying to their spouses. That evening, while I packed for Nebraska, Alyssa was extra sweet, too sweet. She even suggested we go out to my favorite steakhouse, like old times. Over dinner, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'll miss you, she said, locking eyes with me. Be safe up there. I couldn't help but wonder if she was already texting Derek, making plans for while I was gone. The thought made my jaw tighten. I kept my tone steady. Always am, I said. Got plenty to come home to. Alyssa smiled, totally unaware that our marriage had already fallen off the edge, like someone slipping off a turbine without a safety line. At this point, the only thing I didn't know was how hard the crash would be. Funny thing is, 5 months before all this blew up, I actually got a warning. I was on a job in Kansas when my coworker Logan pulled me aside. Guy's been in the trade a long time. Reliable. Quiet. I don't know how to say this, he said, his face serious. But I saw your wife at the Shoreline Retreat Hotel bar last weekend with some guy. They looked close. I brushed it off right away. Alyssa had told me she was visiting her sister in Milwaukee that weekend. Must have been someone who looked like her, I told myself. Logan had just shrugged and said, maybe she's got a twin. Just figured you'd want to know. I hadn't even brought it up with Alyssa. I guess I didn't want to believe it. But now, with everything going on, that conversation played on repeat in my head as I drove west toward Nebraska. For days into the trip, Keller called. Got photos and a full report, he said. She picked up Derek from his office the day after you left. They went straight to your house. Stayed there for 5 hours. Then they went out to dinner. He sent the pictures. There they were, in our driveway, standing too close for comfort. His hand was on her waist like they had nothing to hide. My blood started to boil. I had to pull over at a rest stop. Couldn't drive with that much rage in me. Just sat there, gripping the wheel, breathing heavy. The thought of that man in our home, maybe even in our bedroom, hit me harder than I expected. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, hard enough to bruise my knuckles. Then I sat back and took a long breath. I couldn't afford to lose control. Once I calmed down, I called the bank and moved half of our joint savings into my personal account. Then I rang our financial advisor. Caleb, he answered, I was just about to call you. Alyssa tried to access your retirement accounts yesterday. Said you two were consolidating funds. My heart dropped. I never authorized that. Don't worry, he said. Nothing went through. I locked everything down. Needed both signatures anyway. But maybe you and Alyssa should talk. We already were, I said, mostly to myself. Just not reading from the same script. That night in the hotel, Keller called again. One more thing, he said. Your wife went into your home office. Took pictures of documents, looked like account info, financial records. I got it all on camera. That was the last straw. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was strategy. They weren't just sneaking around behind my back. It looked like a plan to take me for everything I had. That night, I didn't sleep much. Instead, I made some calls. Friends, coworkers, people I trusted. Started putting up walls around everything I had. By sunrise, I knew exactly what had to be done. I checked out early and hit the road without telling anyone. Sometimes the best move is showing up when nobody expects you. Alyssa wasn't going to see this coming. As I got closer to Milwaukee, every mile made me more certain whatever man had left home a few days ago. He wasn't coming back. The one driving now? He wasn't going to be fooled again. I parked a block away from the house and walked in on foot. Alyssa's car was in the driveway. Next to it, and Lexus I didn't recognize. Had to be Derek's. Perfect. Instead of walking straight in, I circled to our neighbor Roy's place. He's a retired Marine, always had my back. Never really liked Alyssa, to be honest. Caleb, he said, surprised when he opened the door. Aren't you supposed to be out of town? Need a favor, Roy. Mind if I cut through your yard? Maybe borrow your deck for a bit. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. Saw that Lexus yesterday too. Deck's yours. From Roy's back deck, I had a clear view right into our bedroom window. Curtains were open. There they were, Alyssa and Derek, lounging in our bedroom, sipping my expensive bourbon like they owned the place. I took out my phone, snapped a few shots, and sent a message to Keller. Meet me at the coffee shop down the road. When he showed up, I handed him an envelope across the table. Final payment, I said. And a little extra for going above and beyond. He gave me a nod. So what's next? More info, I told him. I want to know everything they're planning before I make a move. Afterward, I headed back to Roy's. He offered me his guest room, no questions asked. Stay as long as you need, he said. Sort things out. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I reached out to a cybersecurity buddy of mine. Guy owed me a favor. By sundown, I had full access to Alyssa's email and cloud accounts. What I found hit like a punch to the gut. They'd been plotting this for months, Alyssa and Derek. There were long threads discussing how much money I had, how to get their hands on it, even laughing at how clueless I was. One file was titled Exit Strategy. It laid out exactly how Alyssa could squeeze the most out of me in a divorce. But the worst part wasn't the documents. It was an audio file. Alyssa had been secretly recording our conversations, trying to bait me into saying something aggressive, something she could use in court. I listened to one from just before my trip. She kept poking at me, trying to push my buttons, and when I finally raised my voice, she played the victim. That's gold, I heard Derek say after I left the room. If he ever lays a hand on you, even better. Your lawyer will take him to the cleaners. I leaned back in the chair, numb. This wasn't just cheating. This was an ambush. And they thought I'd walk right into it. Next morning, I scheduled a meeting with one of the top divorce attorneys in Milwaukee. Rachel Shepard, tough as nails, especially in cases involving financial abuse and adultery. After that, I called my boss. Need to extend my leave, I told him. Everything all right? Not yet, I said, with a grim smile. But it will be. The next few days, I became a ghost. From Roy's spare bedroom, I tracked every move they made. I built a case so tight you'd need a crowbar to pry it open. Roy didn't ask for much, just nodded and pitched in. Another delivery today, he said one afternoon. Champagne this time. Celebrating something, I muttered. Looks like it. Probably their future, the one they thought I was too stupid to see coming. Alyssa kept calling me, acting like everything was normal. Grocery runs. Visiting her mom. Hanging out with friends. All lies. I played along, telling her about blizzards and broken turbines, smiling through my teeth the whole time. On day 5, Rachel called. The financial protections are all set, she said. Your accounts and retirement are locked down. And the evidence you've sent? It's strong. What about the house? I asked. That place had become a crime scene. Given the proof of her bringing a lover into the marital home, we've got leverage, Rachel said. Then she hesitated. Also, your wife's been talking to divorce attorneys. 3, actually. One of them's Landry. I froze. Marcus Landry was infamous for dragging cases out and bleeding people dry. Has she hired him yet? No. She's still shopping for sharks. I hung up and let it sink in. She was going to hit me with divorce papers the moment I got back, cutthroat style. That evening, Roy knocked again. They're loading his car. Your electronics. Some artwork. I was across the street in seconds, hidden behind the neighbor's hedge. Derek's Lexus was packed. My home theater system. Alyssa's jewelry. Even my damn fireproof safe. Once they left, I let myself into the house. Quietly. It didn't feel like mine anymore. Furniture had been rearranged. Our wedding photos replaced with cheap modern art. It was like I never existed. In the bedroom, Derek's clothes hung neatly in my closet. I clenched my jaw, snapped photos, and then swapped the emptied safe with a twin, one I'd filled with key documents. Bank records showing money moved to my new accounts. A letter from Rachel detailing the legal risks of theft and financial deceit. I wanted them to open it and realize the game had changed. Then I went back to Roy's and waited. Through his binoculars, I watched Alyssa and Derek stumble home late, giggling and half-drunk. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow changes everything. At sunrise, I met with an old client, now the owner of a high-end private security firm. I want every inch of my house under surveillance, I said. Legally. Full documentation. By noon, I had a court order in hand. It authorized recording my own property, based on the theft evidence. By 3:15 p.m., his team had installed discrete cameras in all common areas while Alyssa was at work. That same day, I paid a visit to a secure storage facility downtown. I converted a big chunk of our liquid cash into physical gold and silver. Holding those bars in my hand, it felt like something real. Something they couldn't hack or wire away. We'll store it in your private vault, the manager said. Biometric access only. I nodded and signed the forms. He handed me a special USB key. This holds the encrypted vault data. I slipped it into my pocket. One step ahead, finally. Without your fingerprint, that vault might as well not exist. That evening, I got back to Roy's place and found him on the back porch, calmly cleaning his tools like he was getting ready for something. Someone coming over? I asked, settling into the chair next to him. Roy gave a grim little smile. Just being ready. Saw your wife's boyfriend this morning. Looked like he was hauling something big from his car. No idea what it was, but he looked serious. My stomach dropped. You sure about that? 18 years in the Marines, Roy said. I know what a case like that looks like, son. That piece of news hit hard. Derek with a gun? That changed the stakes. I hadn't expected this thing to turn physical. Before I could say anything else, Roy reached behind him and handed me something small. Got something for you. Military-grade recorder. Won't show up on scans. Better than your phone for what you're doing. I took it and nodded, genuinely grateful. Thanks, Roy. For all of it. He just shrugged. Man protects what's his. Or makes damn sure no one else gets it. Later that night, my phone buzzed with an alert from the surveillance system. Alyssa and Derek were in my home office, trying to crack open the swapped safe. The camera caught the exact moment Alyssa realized something was wrong. Her face froze when she read the letter from my lawyer instead of finding the financial records they were expecting. Derek's face twisted with rage as he scanned the page. Then he slammed the safe shut hard enough to rattle the camera. I sat there watching, calm and steady. Their little scheme was unraveling fast. They thought they were playing a gullible man who wouldn't see betrayal if it smacked him in the face. Instead, they'd awakened a man with nothing to lose and everything to protect. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow, I'd walk back into that house, officially, and bring this thing to a head. The next morning, I dressed sharp. Best suit, charcoal gray. Power tie. Even those cufflinks Alyssa gave me on our 6th anniversary. Funny how something that used to mean love now felt like armor. Before I left Roy's place, I checked my phone, 6 missed calls from Alyssa. The surveillance footage had shown her tearing through the house in a panic after she found the fake safe. She'd been calling everyone. Derek, divorce lawyers, probably trying to fix whatever cracks had just split their plan wide open. You sure about going in alone? Roy asked as I grabbed my keys. I could have your back. I shook my head. This is between me and Alyssa. But I appreciate it. Phone recording? He checked. I patted my pocket where the military recorder sat. Got it covered. Crossing the street to my own house felt like walking onto a battlefield in plain sight. Alyssa was already at the door, putting on her best surprised face. Caleb, you're home early, she said with fake warmth, moving in for a hug. I sidestepped her, walked right past into what used to be my home. Derek's stuff was everywhere, his coat on the rack, his favorite beer in the fridge, the scent of his cologne hanging in the air like a warning. We need to talk, I said, setting my bag down in the living room. Her smile faltered, but didn't disappear. Of course. Let me get you some coffee. You must be tired from the drive. I'm good, I said, keeping my voice calm. Sit down, Alyssa. She sat, nervously, like someone who knew the walls were closing in. Is everything okay? You sound serious. I looked at her, really looked. This woman I'd loved for 12 years. She was a stranger now. I know about Derek, I said. She blinked fast, panic flashing before she replaced it with confusion. Derek? What are you talking about? Derek Whitman. City Trust Bank. Married man. Your lover. I didn't stop there. The guy who's been in my house, drinking my bourbon, and helping you figure out how to take everything from me in the divorce. The color drained from her face, but she bounced back quickly. You're being ridiculous. I don't know what you think. Stop. I held up my hand. No more lies. I've got everything. Photos, videos, recordings, your emails, the whole blueprint of your little heist. Her eyes went hard. The mask dropped. You've been spying on me? That's illegal. No, it's not. Not when it's my house. My accounts. And signs my wife wasn't being honest about the finances. Then she switched gears, tears on cue. Caleb, please. Whatever you think is happening, we can work through this. We've been through too much to throw it all away. For a second, I almost admired the performance. Almost. There's nothing left to fix, I said steadily. This marriage ended the moment you chose betrayal. Not just with Derek, but when you tried to drain me financially. Alyssa shot up from the couch, her tears suddenly gone. You have no clue what I'm capable of. You think you've outsmarted me with this little investigation, she sneered, but you won't win. I already have, I answered coolly. My lawyer filed for divorce this morning. The papers are on their way. And with all the proof I've got, the judge froze our joint accounts and barred either of us from touching the assets. Retroactively. So, anything you and Derek already took? I added, you'll need to return it, or it counts as theft. Her face twisted in fury. How could you? You might deserve half of what we built together, I admitted. But not a dime of what I earned before you, and definitely not through lies and stealing. Alyssa grabbed a vase and hurled it against the wall. It shattered loud, sharp. I didn't move. Get out, she screamed. I stood my ground. No, Alyssa. This time, you're the one leaving. The next 24 hours felt like a cold war behind suburban walls. She wouldn't leave, set herself up in the guest room, instead, swinging between threats and sobbing pleas. You'll regret this, she hissed at breakfast. When I'm finished, you won't have a penny. I sipped my coffee and stayed calm. Hard to do when I've got audio of you outlining the whole fraud. By mid-afternoon, the doorbell rang. Standing there was her divorce lawyer, Marcus Landry, wearing a smug expression that faded fast when I greeted him by name. Mr. Dalton, he said, stiff and formal. I'm representing your wife. I'd like to discuss a settlement. Funny timing, I said, stepping aside. My attorney filed first thing this morning. In the living room, Alyssa sat with a calm face that didn't match her panic from earlier. Landry joined her, pulling out paperwork. We've drafted a settlement offer generous, considering the circumstances. I couldn't help but laugh. Before you say anything else, just know, I have strong proof of some serious wrongdoing, including financial misconduct and betrayal. Everything's been recorded. Landry didn't flinch, but his grip on the pen got tighter. Allegations require proof, he said flatly. And I've got plenty, I said, sliding over a thumb drive. Emails, videos, audio recordings. Just a sample. The rest with my lawyer and backed up everywhere. Alyssa's face lost color. You're bluffing. Want to hear the recording where you and Derek talk about hiding assets? Or the one where you coach him on cracking into my retirement funds? I turned to Landry. As an officer of the court, you know pushing this could be malpractice. He plugged in the drive and scanned through. With every click, his face got a little more serious. Finally, he shut the laptop and looked at Alyssa. We need to speak alone. They whispered for a while. Then he turned back to me, a lot more respectful. My client's willing to consider a different arrangement. I'll bet she is, I said. But here's the only deal on the table. Alyssa leaves the house today. She takes what's hers, nothing more. All financial issues go through the courts, where her little plan with Derek will be exposed. Alyssa shot to her feet, eyes blazing. You can't do this. I need time. To move more money? Fake some evidence? Not happening. You've got until 6, I said. After that, you'll be trespassing. You just throw away 12 years of marriage? She asked, shifting into the hurt wife role. I looked her straight in the eye. I didn't throw it away, Alyssa. You did. When you brought up the idea of an open marriage last month, I knew it was just you trying to cover up what you'd already been doing. But now, we don't need an open marriage. We're already over. You're free to go to whoever's been waiting. That broke her. Her whole act collapsed. Caleb, please. 6 o'clock, I repeated, turning to leave. Not a minute later. She was gone by 4:40. Just took clothes and personal stuff. Roy stood by as a witness, making sure it stayed civil. We didn't say a word. Just the sound of bags dragging and doors closing. And when she left, the house finally felt still. Empty, sure, but also cleaner. Like I could breathe again. That night, Travis gave me a call. Heard what happened. You holding up okay? I'm getting there, I said, sipping bourbon on the back porch. Should have listened to you sooner. Don't beat yourself up, he told me. You trusted her. That's what marriage is supposed to be. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Lawyers, paperwork, meetings. Alyssa tried to fight the divorce at first, but everything changed once Derek's wife discovered the affair and filed for divorce herself, mentioning Alyssa directly in the documents. After that, Derek bailed on Alyssa like a sinking ship once his own marriage blew up. Word from people we both knew was that he claimed Alyssa tricked him, played him for a fool. Probably the same thing he'd say to the next woman he sweet-talked. Then one rainy Wednesday, I got a surprise call from my attorney. "Alyssa wants to meet," Rachel said. "No lawyers. Just the two of you. Says it's important." My gut told me to stay away, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a little coffee shop downtown. Alyssa showed up in designer clothes, but she looked worn out, like life had taken the shine out of her. "Thanks for coming," she said, hands wrapped around her mug. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't say a word. Just waited. What I did to you is awful," she continued. "Derek ditched me the moment things got tough. Everything you warned me about, it happened." I looked at her, steady. "Is that what this is? You need money now that Plan B walked out?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I deserve that. But no. I'm leaving Milwaukee after the divorce. I'm starting over somewhere new." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were signed settlement papers, accepting everything I'd originally offered. The bare minimum. No alimony. No strings. "Why now?" I asked, not trusting the sudden change of heart. She looked away. "Derek wasn't the first. There were others. I've been cheating for years. You didn't deserve any of it. The truth should have stung. But instead, it felt like everything finally made sense. The woman I thought I loved? She'd never really existed. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said, getting up to leave. She reached out, touched my hand. "How did you know? When did you first start to suspect?" I pulled away gently. "When you stopped looking at me like I mattered. Everything else was just the evidence." Walking out, I realized I didn't feel a thing for her anymore. Not anger, not love, not even sadness. Just a sense of peace, and the strange calm that comes from knowing the truth. For months later, the divorce was finalized. Alyssa packed up and left town, headed to South Carolina with barely a word. Derek's situation turned into a circus. His wife had learned from my example, collected every bit of proof she could about his lies and cheating. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work. Took on the toughest turbine jobs, the kind that had me climbing so high. The air felt cleaner, and the problems were easier to solve than anything down below. On the anniversary of the day, I found out about Alyssa and Derek. Travis and Roy threw a little cookout on Roy's deck. "To new beginnings," Travis said, raising his beer. Roy gave me a nod and added, "into seeing clearly from higher ground." Later that night, as the sun dropped behind the trees, Roy handed me a small wooden box. "Made this for you," he said, a little rough in the voice. "From the deck boards we replaced last summer." Inside was a compass. Smooth, polished wood. Real solid craftsmanship. The needle pointed north like it had never wavered. "Thought you could use it," Roy said. "For whatever's next." The next day, my phone rang. It was my supervisor. A big wind farm project out in Kansas needed a lead technician. 2 years minimum. Good pay. Chance to move up. "You're the best guy for the job," he said. "But you'd have to relocate. Need an answer by Thursday." I looked around the house, this place that once held so many dreams of a future with Alyssa. I'd reclaimed it, but the memories were still in the walls. That compass sitting on my coffee table didn't point to the past, it pointed to something new. I called Roy to tell him. His answer was instant. "So, when do we list the house?" I laughed. "You think I should go?" "Son," he said, "climbing higher is what you do best. Always has been." And he was right. Those same instincts that kept me safe on turbines, they'd saved me in life, too. Keeping calm in a storm. Securing my line before I made a bold move. And knowing when to trust my grip, even if the ground was a long way down. 2 months later, I stood on top of my first turbine in Kansas. Rolling plains stretched for miles, the sky wide open and endlessly blue. The air was thinner up there, but I breathed deeper than I had in years. Some might say I was running away, but I knew better. I was climbing higher. And from that kind of height, everything down below looked a whole lot clearer. Bye.